The 50,000!
Hey guys, welcome to the Terradome. Today we're in a little bit of a pickle because outside the ship is a cosmic trilobite. These things fly through galaxies and just suck electricity out of anything they can get their tentacles on. And there's literally nothing I can do until it leaves. I've shut down the heating, the oxygen, the sewage lines. The only thing I do have running is the backup computer. It's just so when it leaves, the radar system kicks in and says that we're in the clear, and then, I can turn everything back on. But until then, it's just a waiting game. I hate these monsters. But speaking of monsters, it gives me a chance to talk about Cloverfield. I am a fan of found footage movies. I do like Chronicle and Blair Witch Project, but Cloverfield is my favourite because, as many of you know, I do love giant monster movies, and one done in the style of a found footage movie is just right up my alley. I love the real sense of atmosphere you get from it. You really do feel like that there is a monster attacking New York and you're watching the home movie of these people who are caught in the middle of it. The acting is really good for the most part. I'm not blown away by the characters like I am with ones from Jurassic Park or anything, but they do sell the story really well. I enjoy Hud, the guy who has the camera, quite a lot because he's he seems very realistic. He acts like a lot of my friends and how I would imagine them to act in that sort of situation. And Milena, the sort of sarcastic one that he's in love with. And that is another aspect of this film that I really like, is that it's kind of like a classic love story. It's very charming in that respect. You have this, guy who's in love with this girl, and she's trapped up in a high tower or a skyscraper while this monster's attacking New York, and he just has to go and rescue her. It's just as simple as that. And the simplicity of it gives it a lot of charm, and that's basically the story. Is a monster attacks New York and he wants to go save his girlfriend who's trapped up in a building. It's almost like a homage to like George and the Dragon type scenario, saving the damsel in distress and all that, but it doesn't do it in a negative light. It's actually a really good take on those sort of stories, and the monster designs are fantastic. I really do love the design of the Cloverfield monster itself and the little creatures that fall off it. The sequence in the subway is terrifying. When I first watched that in the cinema, I was bricking it and I was going, oh my god, what is down there with them? But the giant monster itself is even threatening. One of my favourite sequences in this film is when they're in the helicopter making their escape, and they look out the window and see it walking through the city, being bombarded with all sorts of artillery, and then it reaches up and pushes its hand through a building and just pulls down on it as it sort of as explosions go off all over its back. It's a really awesome sequence. I think my favourite scene in this entire film, though, has to be when they're in a shop and it's being looted, and they're looking for batteries so he can recharge his mobile phone to get in contact with his girlfriend. And Hud is filming, and he films the television screen that's a news report of the monster, and then he walks out of the shop and looks down the road, and you see the monster doing exactly what it's doing on the TV just down the road. And that's the one thing I love about Cloverfield more than anything, is you get a real sense of sort of the atmosphere of what it would be like to be caught in a giant monster attack where it's just absolute chaos throughout the entire city. I watched it recently, and the effects have held up since 2008, and for a film that they had to sort of sell in secret, the budget they had, really they used the budget really well, and it definitely pulls it off with it never takes you out of the movie. You're not sitting there going, oh my god, that looks really crap or something. But yeah, it definitely is worthy of the found footage title. In my opinion, it is the best one because I love monster movies and I just love this kind of stuff. So there we go. But 10 Cloverfield Lane looks really cool, and I like that it's a change of style. The idea of these people trapped in a cellar and you don't know what's out there in the world. And we have no idea what the story is at this time. Seems as if the monster has decided to leave.
3,
Anyway,
2,
seems like
1.
power is back online, so thank God for that. I never thought that thing would leave. Goddamn cosmic trilobites. Ugh, they give me the willies. Anyway, in summary, Cloverfield is a fantastic movie and worth checking out if you haven't seen it. I would say if you're not a fan of found footage movies, you might not like it because the camera does shake quite a lot throughout. But if you don't mind that, like myself, then it's one hell of a ride. I love the score by Michael Giacchino that plays over the end credits. It really reminds me of old school Godzilla soundtracks and kaiju movies from Japan. And I really do like the use of the found footage genre that it's in, where they cut from like old footage to new footage, like past and present, because you get the feeling that the tape's been recorded over quite a few times. And that was a really clever, unique thing that we hadn't really seen in the found footage genre at the time, which now has been done, quite a lot. But yeah, really interesting movie, and I can't wait for the sequel, 10 Cloverfield Lane. If you're interested to hear my thoughts on that, I will be posting a video as soon as the film arrives in the mail pod. You'll never guess what was in the mail pod. 10 Cloverfield Lane on VHS. Oh my god, I cannot wait to watch this. Cloverfield was one of my favourite monster movies, and the fact that this film even exists makes me very excited. And I'm one of those people, I don't care if this has nothing to do with Cloverfield. It'd be a bit sad, but I'm just happy that they've decided to make a film with the Cloverfield name attached to make a new sort of franchise out of it. However they want to handle it, I don't know, but we're about to find out. So, exciting times lay ahead. Can't wait for this. Alright, so 10 Cloverfield Lane is a really, really cool spin-off / sequel to Cloverfield. Obviously I kind of have to address the connection between the first film. I feel like there are a lot of little Easter eggs in this one that connect it. So like John Goodman's character, for example, working on satellites, and a lot of people speculate that the little tiny blip that falls from the sky at the end of Cloverfield and lands in the ocean, which supposedly awoke the monster or brought the monster down with it, it was a satellite. And so maybe John Goodman's character knew what was coming, and that's why he built the bunker. He didn't build the bunker necessarily just to murder people. Maybe his murderous ways came from knowing what he knew. Who knows? But it made for an interesting sort of speculative connection. Obviously, the Slew Show sign was seen at the garage at the beginning of this film, and that's the company the main dude in Cloverfield was going to work for. The monsters themselves at the end of this film, or the aliens, should I say, they made the same sort of noises, and they looked like they were cut from the same cloth as the monster from Cloverfield. So the connections were there. It was just when was this film set? And I tried to look for it in the movie, and I think it might say it on her phone, but I'm going to have to watch again after this review to make sure. But I don't think this film's meant to be set in 2008. Although if it is, then there must be a few, movie mistakes in this. But that I can overlook. If it's all meant to be set in the same time, then fair enough. If it's not, then maybe another film will explain a little bit more. A lot of people are speculating, from what I've read online, in between when I was watching the film, that these two films exist in two parallel universes, and that these aliens can go from one to another. So in the first Cloverfield, they sent this monster to New York to destroy the city as a way of taking out the human race. And in this one, they go around with like human pesticide, just like spraying it on all of us. But yeah, so the speculation remains, and I hope that, I know J.J. Abrams is gunning to make another Cloverfield film if this one does really well, so I hope it does.
And maybe in that film they'll finally put some answers in the next film, linking it all together. It would be nice if they did that, because as great as Cloverfield and this film are as their own films, I'm the sort of person, I like them carrying on as a new Cloverfield brand, a new franchise, and I'd hate to see it just sort of go nowhere with the answers. But that said, they are great films on their own, so yeah. But anyway, focusing more on the film I've just watched, I absolutely was blown away by the performance of everyone in this film. They did a fantastic job. Obviously, John Goodman is absolutely brilliant in this movie. He's so creepy and just so disturbing. Like, when he calls Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character a child, when they're saying, you know, not a girl, but and they want to say woman, but he says like a princess as a child. It's just so creepy. And I might just say this, that I think out of all of John Goodman's work that I've seen, this is his best work. It's hands down his best performance that I've seen. And he's so watchable. I love where he can go from being absolutely crazy to then dancing at the jukebox like nothing's wrong. So I really sympathise with Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character. I thought she played it really smart and really clever, and I really liked her character. She was definitely a great protagonist for this movie. I loved the way she was making or designing clothes at the beginning, and obviously that played a part later on when she built that makeshift biohazard suit, which was so cool. And the other guy, who I can't remember the character's name or the actors, unfortunately, he was really cool, and I didn't quite I wasn't really on his character's side at the beginning, because I was questioning everything. Like when he puts his hand on Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character's shoulder, and John Goodman's character bats him away and says, get your hands off her. You didn't quite know if John Goodman's character was being too aggressive, or whether the other guy was being too touchy-feely and John Goodman's character knew something about him that we didn't, and it created a lot of tension and paranoia, which this film absolutely nailed. The director got that down to a T, and it was so refreshing to see a film set in the Cloverfield universe that didn't do the same. Like, I know obviously this started out as a completely different movie, but it's actually been released as a Cloverfield spin-off, so I can actually say that I like that the Cloverfield sequel is a much lower key, sort of smaller movie compared to the first one, yet it still ramps up the tension and still keeps you hooked, just as the original did, for different reasons. And so absolutely love this movie. Just another thing, I really like the music. I thought that was really good. I can't remember who composed it, but I'm going to have to look that up. It was a really, really intense score. The effects are fantastic. The fact that there are aliens attacking Earth at the end was something that I was smiling about, because you could very easily imagine this film, probably when it was The Cellar, she makes her escape out of the basement, or out of this bunker, and discovers that the world is fine and it's all been a ruse. But obviously it's a Cloverfield film, so she comes out and she sees aliens are actually attacking the planet, and that brought up more questions, because if she got out and she was like, oh, everything's okay, that was all just a wacky time down in the bunker, then you'd leave the cinema going, okay, good, we know all the answers. But obviously we don't now, because the aliens are attacking. It brings up, like I said before, did John Goodman's character know what was going to happen? Is that why he went crazy, or are these aliens jumping from dimension to dimension, or is this set in the same universe, and this, that and the other? So I hope the next film does kind of clear up some of the questions, but I'm not going to be losing sleep over it if they don't. Cloverfield and 10 Cloverfield Lane are both fantastic on their own, and really, really good so far. I can't wait to watch it again, which I'm going to do. I have Cloverfield right here, so maybe I'm going to have a double bill. Oh yeah!